A mom in sweatpants? What's she going to do? Fight a black belt? The dojo laughed, unaware this ordinary parent was once Lily Chen, a 3-time world champion who walked away after tragedy struck. For years, she buried that past, choosing instead to raise her daughter in peace. But when a cocky instructor mocked her in front of that daughter, the silent storm she'd hidden was about to rise again. Lily Carter pushed through the heavy glass doors of Master Kim's martial arts academy, her well-worn sneakers squeaking against the glossy floor. The familiar scent of sweat and determination filled her senses as she scanned the training area for her 16-year-old daughter, Sarah. "Mom's here," Sarah called out, waving from across the blue mats where she practiced forms with a few other teens. Lily smiled, tucking a loose strand of her graying hair behind her ear. At 38, she had embraced her simple appearance, no makeup, a baggy gray t-shirt, and comfortable sweatpants. Life had taught her that true value often lay beneath the surface. "Take your time, sweetheart," Lily replied, settling onto a bench in the viewing area. She pulled out her phone to catch up on emails while Sarah finished her session. The sharp commands of Jake Reynolds, the head instructor, resonated across the dojo as he led an advanced class through their drills. His black belt shone against his crisp white uniform, and his authoritative voice suggested he had never faced a true challenge. "Higher kicks, Jenkins. Your grandmother could do better," he barked at a perspiring teenager. Several students chuckled nervously, their respect intertwined with fear. Lily observed quietly, noting Jake's technique, clean movements, and decent form, but something about his demeanor unsettled her. She had encountered his type before, skilled enough to be dangerous, yet arrogant enough to be foolish. "Sensei Jake is really tough," one mother whispered to another nearby. "But he gets results. My son earned his brown belt faster here than anywhere else." The other mother looked nervously at Jake as he corrected another student with unwarranted force. 20 minutes later, Sarah jogged over, her face flushed from exertion. "Ready to go, Mom? I just need to grab my water bottle." "Of course, honey. How was practice?" Lily asked. "Good. Sensei Jake showed us some new combinations. He says I might test for my green belt next month." Lily's heart swelled with pride. Sarah had struggled with confidence before starting martial arts, and witnessing her daughter's growth made every monthly payment worthwhile. As they gathered Sarah's gear, Jake's booming voice cut through the chatter. "All right, everyone. Before we bow out, who wants to see something entertaining?" The room fell silent, all eyes turning toward the instructor. A knot of unease formed in Lily's stomach. Jake's gaze swept the room before landing on her, a slow, predatory smile spreading across his face. "You know what? I think we need a demonstration of why regular folks shouldn't mess with trained fighters. Hey, before we go on, this story is about pain and strength. If it speaks to you, consider subscribing, and tell me in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? All right, let's get back to Lily." Several students exchanged worried glances. This wasn't part of their usual routine. "Mom, let's just go," Sarah whispered, tugging on Lily's sleeve. "But Jake hasn't finished," Lily replied. He strode across the mats with exaggerated confidence, his footsteps echoing in the suddenly tense atmosphere. Other parents shifted uneasily, unsure if this was part of a planned lesson or something else entirely. Lily stood slowly, her maternal instincts sharpening. Whatever Jake had in mind, she sensed it wouldn't end well for someone. Jake stopped directly in front of her, his 6-foot frame towering over her modest 5'5" stature. The dojo had grown eerily quiet, even the teenagers who had been giggling moments ago now watching with discomfort. "Ma'am," Jake said loudly, ensuring everyone could hear. "I don't believe I've had the pleasure." "You're Sarah's mom, right?" "That's correct," Lily replied evenly, her voice calm despite the tension in the air. Jake's smile broadened, lacking any warmth. "Well, since you're here watching us train, I was wondering, have you ever been curious about martial arts yourself?" Lily felt Sarah's hand slip into hers, her daughter's palm clammy with nervous sweat. "Not particularly," she responded truthfully. "Oh, come on now," Jake continued, his tone growing theatrical as he played to his audience. "I bet you've watched all those action movies thinking, I could do that, right?" A few nervous laughs rippled through the room. Lily noticed several parents looking away, visibly uncomfortable with the direction this was heading. "Actually, I haven't," Lily replied, maintaining her composure. "We should probably head home. Sarah has homework." But Jake wasn't finished. He stepped closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial tone while still resonating throughout the room. "You know what? I've got an idea. How about a little friendly demonstration? Nothing serious. Just a quick sparring match to show everyone the difference between real training and wishful thinking." The color drained from Sarah's face. "Sensei Jake, my mom doesn't—" "It's okay, sweetheart," Lily interrupted softly, though her jaw tightened slightly. Jake clapped his hands together, the sharp sound making several people jump. "Excellent. Don't worry, Mrs. Carter. I'll go easy on you. Wouldn't want to hurt someone who's never thrown a proper punch." The condescension in his voice was unmistakable. Now, Lily could see the other students shifting awkwardly, some looking ashamed of their instructor's behavior, while others seemed excited by the prospect of entertainment. "This really isn't necessary," Lily said, her voice steady. "Oh, but it is," Jake insisted, spreading his arms wide. "Too many people these days think they're tough because of what they see on TV. It's important to understand the reality of real combat training versus suburban mom fitness." The insult hung heavily in the air. Lily felt something shift within her. Not anger, but a familiar coldness she hadn't felt in years. "Besides," Jake added, clearly enjoying himself, "what's the worst that could happen? A few gentle moves, maybe a takedown or two? Consider it a free lesson in humility." Around the room, reactions were mixed. Some students looked mortified by his behavior, while others seemed caught up in the drama. Parents appeared torn between intervening and remaining uninvolved. Lily glanced down at Sarah, whose eyes were wide with worry and embarrassment. Then she looked back at Jake, whose smug expression conveyed that he was already relishing his impending victory. "One condition," Lily said quietly. Jake raised an eyebrow. "Oh, and what's that?" "When this is over, you apologize to your students for this display." Jake's laughter echoed through the dojo, sharp and mocking. "Apologize? You're going to be the one apologizing to the floor when you hit it." Several students cringed at their instructor's cruelty, but Lily's expression remained unchanged. She simply nodded and began removing her jacket, revealing lean, well-defined arms that spoke of years of disciplined training. "Mom," Sarah whispered urgently, "you don't have to do this." Lily squeezed her daughter's hand gently. "Sometimes, honey, bullies need to be reminded that strength comes in many forms." As Lily advanced toward the center of the mat, her gait transformed. The shuffling walk of a tired suburban mother faded away, replaced by the fluid, measured steps of someone who understood combat intimately. Jake, busy adjusting his belt and playing to his audience, completely missed the change. "All right, folks, gather around. Let's make this educational." What Jake didn't know, what no one in the room knew, was that Lily Carter had once been Lily Chen, a 3-time world champion in mixed martial arts. For 6 years, she had dominated competitions across multiple weight classes, earning the nickname Silent Storm for her calm demeanor and devastating technique. She had retired abruptly at 25, not due to injury or defeat, but from tragedy. Her younger brother, also a fighter, had died in a car accident while rushing to one of her matches. The guilt had been overwhelming. If she hadn't been competing, he wouldn't have been on that road that night. Lily had walked away from everything, the titles, the endorsements, the life she had built. She changed her name back to her mother's maiden name, moved across the country, and vowed never to fight again. For 13 years, she kept that promise, channeling her energy into raising Sarah and building a quiet life as a graphic designer. But now, watching Jake's smug face as he explained to his students how real fighters handled wannabes, Lily felt the old fire rekindling, not for glory or competition, but for something more significant: respect. "You ready, Mrs. Carter?" Jake called out, bouncing lightly on his toes in what he believed was an intimidating display. Lily centered herself on the mat, her breathing becoming deeper and more controlled. The watching crowd grew quieter, sensing a shift they couldn't quite identify. "Just remember," Jake announced to his audience, "this is why we train seriously. You can't fake experience." The irony of his words wasn't lost on Lily. She had faced Olympic champions, professional fighters, and martial artists who dedicated their lives to perfection. Jake, for all his arrogance, was about to learn what real experience looked like. "Any last words before we begin?" Jake asked, his tone dripping with false courtesy. Lily looked directly into his eyes for the first time since this ordeal began. What Jake saw there made him take an involuntary step back, not fear or uncertainty, but the cold, calculating gaze of a predator who had been playing prey. "Yes," Lily said quietly, her voice clear through the silent dojo. "You might want to remember that the strongest people are often the ones who choose not to show their strength." Jake's confident smirk faltered slightly, but his pride wouldn't allow him to back down. "All right then," he said, shaking off his momentary uncertainty. "Let's get this over with." Jake stretched ostentatiously, showing off with high kicks and flashy warm-ups meant to intimidate. Students watched with mixed excitement and concern, while parents shifted uneasily. In contrast, Lily stood perfectly still at the center of the mat, her breathing deep and steady. Those who knew what to look for noticed the subtle lowering of her center of gravity. She was ready. "Mom, please," Sarah whispered from the sidelines. "You don't have anything to prove." Lily offered a gentle smile. "Sometimes, sweetheart, it's not about proving anything. It's about teaching." Jake ended his display with a flourish, slicing the air with loud punches. "Hope you've been saying your prayers, Mrs. Carter." "This might hurt a little." Around the room, worried glances spread. This was no longer a harmless demonstration. "Should we stop this?" one father whispered. "How? He's the instructor." Besides, she agreed. Lily ignored the murmurs. Closing her eyes briefly, she let muscle memory return, the hours of training, the timing of counters, the flow of energy. When she opened them, the weary suburban mom was gone, replaced by someone moving with predatory grace. Jake frowned at the change. "You've been holding out, haven't you? Taken a few self-defense classes at the community center?" "Something like that," Lily said softly. "Well, no matter. Weekend training won't help you here." He circled her, still performing for his audience. "See, kids? This is what happens when people overestimate their abilities. Real combat isn't the movies." Lily stood motionless at the center, turning only her head to follow Jake's movements. To the untrained eye, she seemed passive, almost defenseless. But to anyone who understood fighting, her stillness was dangerous, like a coiled spring waiting to strike. "The thing about martial arts," Jake lectured as he circled, "is that it takes years to build real skill. You can just watch a few videos and think you were ready for the real thing." "You're absolutely right," Lily said, her voice carrying an unsettling calm that drew a few sharper glances from the crowd. Jake faltered, surprised by her agreement. "Exactly. So maybe we should just call this off before—" "No," Lily interrupted gently. "You wanted to teach a lesson about martial arts. Let's teach one." Her quiet confidence rippled through the room, and even Jake felt the shift, though his pride wouldn't let him back down. "Fine," Jake said, dropping into what he believed was an intimidating stance. "But don't say I didn't warn you." He lunged with a textbook right cross, fast, clean, backed by his full weight. Against any beginner, it would have landed. Against Lily, it found nothing but air. She flowed aside like water around stone, angling just enough for his punch to slip past the space where her head had been a heartbeat earlier. The movement was so subtle, so precise, that some in the crowd weren't even sure she'd moved at all. Jake stumbled forward, blinking in confusion. That punch had worked on hundreds before. How had it missed now? "Lucky dodge," he muttered, resetting. "Won't happen twice." Lily said nothing, only eased back into her centered stance. Jake came again, jab, cross, hook, each strike sharp, confident. The work of someone who'd never truly been tested. Each one cut nothing but air. Lily slipped past them like smoke, her head tilting just out of reach, her body swaying with an economy of motion so smooth it was hypnotic to watch. She never looked hurried, never off balance. To the crowd, it was as if she could read his attacks before he threw them. The dojo, once buzzing with chatter, had fallen into charged silence. Even the youngest students now understood they were watching something extraordinary. Jake's confidence began to crack. Sweat streaked his forehead as every strike missed its mark. "Stand still and fight!" he snarled, unleashing a furious flurry. Lily glided around each blow, her movements effortless, almost unreal, and with every slip and sidestep, she edged closer, while Jake grew sloppier, his power bleeding out with each desperate swing. "What's she doing?" a teenager whispered, eyes wide. "She's making him tired," observed another, more perceptively. Jake threw a wild haymaker, putting everything he had behind it. Lily ducked under it smoothly and, for the first time, touched him, a light tap on his exposed ribs as he spun past her. The touch was so gentle it couldn't have hurt a child, but it sent a clear message. "I could have hurt you there, but I chose not to." Jake spun around, his face flushed with exertion and growing panic. "What are you playing at? Fight back!" "I am fighting," Lily said quietly. "I'm just choosing how." The profundity of her statement hung in the air. She wasn't running or cowering. She was demonstrating a level of control that none of them had ever seen. Jake, his breath coming in ragged gasps, made one final desperate attempt. He dropped low and shot forward for a takedown, utilizing his wrestling background to try and bring the fight to the ground where his size advantage might matter. It was exactly the wrong move against exactly the wrong person. As Jake lunged for his takedown attempt, Lily did something that defied everything the watching crowd thought they understood about physics and fighting. She didn't try to sprawl backward or defend against the takedown. Instead, she stepped forward into it. Her movement was so unexpected, so perfectly timed, that Jake's forward momentum worked against him. Lily's hands found the back of his head and shoulders. Using a technique that looked almost gentle, she guided his energy downward and forward while stepping aside. Jake crashed face first into the mat with a resounding thud that echoed through the silent dojo. Gasps and shocked whispers erupted in the room. Jake lay still for a moment, stunned not just by the impact, but by the complete impossibility of what had just happened. He had been the aggressor, he had all the momentum, and somehow he'd ended up eating canvas while his opponent stood calmly above him, not even breathing hard. "How?" Jake pushed himself up on his elbows, staring at Lily with a mixture of confusion and dawning respect. "How did you do that?" Lily extended her hand to help him up. 13 years of practice before I ever set foot in this dojo." Jake ignored her outstretched hand and scrambled to his feet on his own, his face burning with embarrassment and wounded pride. Around the room, his students watched with wide eyes, witnessing their seemingly invincible instructor transformed into a confused, humbled man. "That's impossible," Jake muttered. You're just a mom, a regular person." "No," Lily said gently but firmly. "I am a person who chose to step away from fighting to focus on what truly mattered, raising my daughter. But that doesn't mean I forgot everything I learned." The truth hit the room like a wave. This wasn't some lucky amateur who'd gotten in a few good moves. This was someone who operated on a completely different level. Someone who had been holding back so dramatically that the entire confrontation had been less a fight than a lesson. Sarah stepped forward, her eyes bright with tears of pride and relief. "Mom was Lily Chen," she announced to the stunned room. "Three-time world champion. She retired when I was little." The ensuing silence was deafening. Several of the older students pulled out their phones, clearly Googling the name. Their expressions shifted from skepticism to awe as they found videos and articles about Lily's legendary career. Jake's face underwent a series of emotions: shock, embarrassment, and finally, a hint of wisdom. He looked around at his students, then back at Lily. "I owe you an apology," he said quietly. "And I owe them one too." He gestured toward his students. "This wasn't teaching, this was bullying." Lily nodded. "The strongest thing you can do is admit when you're wrong. Your students will respect you more for it, not less." Jake straightened his shoulders and turned to face his class. "Everyone, I made a serious mistake today. I let my ego make decisions that my brain should have made. Mrs. Carter showed me what real martial arts looks like, not just the techniques, but the wisdom to know when and how to use them. What do you think about Lily's incredible revelation? Sometimes, the most powerful people are the ones who choose to keep their strength hidden until it is absolutely necessary." Have you ever misjudged someone based on their appearance? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your stories about times when someone surprised you. Don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring stories like this one. And let me know where you're watching from. These tales remind us that everyone has a story. And you never know what incredible journey someone has traveled. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our latest uploads.